Good evening, everyone. My name is Vicky Soma. Thank you for joining us with another episode of How Would You Slice That? If you're not familiar with the show, we try to combine some community time and community conversation with just some talk about slicing, maybe strategies or tips or different ways of thinking about slicing models. As always, I have my co-host here, Dr. Lawrence Nightingale. And if you aren't familiar with him, he's an educator in my area, and he has spearheaded an innovation lab at his community college. And he's just an all-around good guy. How are you doing, Lawrence?
Doing great, Vicky. Doing great. How are you? I've got through the anxiety of Halloween. Okay, all those teenage slasher movies that we all sat through, made it through that scary time for me, and now we're waiting on a few things here and there about the selection, and then but in preparation for that, my daughter and I have 3D printed some interesting little things. For example, I 3D printed a series of pots for some house plants that I've got. I 3D printed some bookmarks for my daughter's book club that she's in. 3D printed some stuff from PezLiz. It's been doing pretty good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and enjoying this time.
On my side, I did not make any progress on building the Cocoa Press yet. But I have a list of custom orders I need to knock out before the holiday season, and I'm making progress on 2 of them, so I am happy about that.
Yeah, the holidays are a super busy time for you. Oh, we've got the 3D printing club at Nova has the 3D printing Christmas ornament exchange going on. But the Christmas ornament sale again. That's happening December the 8th.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
okay, we need to put that in mind. December 8th, it's the Northern Virginia Community College Christmas or 3D printing course.
Christmas ornament sale. That is right. College wide. I'm going to confirm that date just while you're sitting there.
All right, and I have actually some ornaments. Sorry. There you go, boom, on the screen. I have some ornaments I can donate your way.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. Thursday, December the 5th. Yes, so that will be the date. We're gonna, it's gonna be great. It's one of those things that the group's gonna get together. We're gonna do a little bit of test marketing to find out what people might be interested in, and print things that are allowed to be sold and things like that. So it teaches a lot of the students about the economics of 3D printing and how the technology is great for producing things, but where our limits are and everything, and respecting the community, which actually brings us right back to our guests.
Yes, come on, good segue, Lawrence.
Thank you.
All right, hold on. All right, we'll get ready to do my intro. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Some have referred to our guest tonight as the color swap queen, and we spell that with a U because she's Canadian. Now, although that's a nice title, I don't think that really quite encapsulates her contribution to the 3D printing community. And she is good at colors for sure, and you'll likely see that tonight. But we shouldn't overlook her forte at uplifting and highlighting people in the community. If you run through her Thangs 3D or her Printables profiles, you're just going to see make after beautiful make, and it's impeccably printed and impeccably photographed, just showing love and support for so many different designers. Now, about a year ago, I appeared on a 1440 Makers Charity Livestream Panel with her, and during that session, she must have mentioned, at least a dozen people in the community. And that's what she does. She's always making sure to introduce talented people to each other. She can speak almost as enthusiastically about Twitch as she can with 3D printing. She is an executive producer of the 24-hour MakerDeck stream, which you can watch anytime you want some 3D printing goodness and chat with people who are watching the same streams. You can typically find her streaming on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And as a testament to her love of color, she has a dedicated show where she explores Polymaker filaments, and it's called In Living Color. When she's not streaming, you can probably find her in a chat somewhere supporting someone else. She's been in this chat pretty regularly as well. So we're grateful tonight to have her with us. And I suspect maybe she'll do some more name drops here and there. So tonight we are welcoming color swapping, Twitch streaming, friend of designers everywhere, PezLiz. Hello.
Good evening.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Just finished actually an amazing project I've been really excited about. This is not color swaps. It's actually just the including color. I recently interviewed Kit Kiln, who's a fairly new to us designer, and he put out a Millennium Falcon. So he likes to use very muted colors, and I like to break his rules. I've broken his rules already with the TIE Fighter, but the Millennium Falcon, I did in a bunch of Polymaker Starlight colors.
Nice.
So it kind of looks like stained glass.
Yes, it sure does.
Yeah, Starlight Mercury and Twilight and Aurora and Mars and Jupiter and Neptune. So
wow.
Yeah, this was today's project. It ended up turning out so nice. I was so excited.
Very beautifully done.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. and you all, and I think I see that you have the special build plate that gives the patterns.
Yeah, I used the PEO PEY, to get that fun starry effect on the on that part. So it's
the holographic build plates, I think they call them.
Yeah, they're really fun.
Wonderful! Wow.
Yeah.
And so exploring color is a big thing. It definitely picked up on that, and a lot of the things that I've seen on your sites and especially on things.
Yeah.
And so how did you, PezLiz, how did you get into, how did you discover that color was something that you wanted to really kind of bring to the community?
From the very first day I started 3D printing, I actually had it February 24th, 2022. So I am fairly new. I was gifted a Focus Odin 5, and that's actually a printer that is not used anymore by anybody. It's extinct. Fixum Dude and Krusty, who are friends of everybody.
You might know him as Practical Printing.
Yeah, yes. Practical Printing. Yeah, Chris Russell. They gifted me a printer because they said this is it's time to start. So from the first couple of weeks, I discovered, first of all, that the Focus does not have an M600 command. I was using Prusa Slicer for that, but I discovered it did not have an M600 command. So I actually had to do my own version of a color swap back then in cutting the filament and praying that the filament runout sensor would say, okay, you're out of filament. What do you do next? So I actually have a picture of my very first color swap. I was so proud of myself. I took a picture and so I can share it here. This was, of course, it's Star Wars. I just showed Star Wars. So I have it there if you want to share it, Vicky.
Oh, there it is.
Put a slide up. Yeah.
It's scroll down. We had so many windows.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a BB-8. I think I found it today on Thingiverse. So that was the very first color swap. It wasn't a great color swap, but I actually did one today to see if I still had it in me, and I was able to figure that out. And I also, as an experiment, decided to try with painting. So that one's actually still on the printer to see. And that's actually kind of where, as we evolve in multicolor printing and stuff, that's something that I explore because it's something that I remind myself all the time. Not everybody has the ability to do multicolor printing, or we need to show people that it is possible, with things like doing color swaps or, all different types of experiments. So that's sort of where I come in with just teaching people about color. I have the show with Polymaker, and so I explore all different ways to add color to 3D printing. And as you've seen, one of the ways that I sort of dove right in when HueForge started out and experimented with that. And I think that's an absolutely fantastic way for anybody, with enough patience to be able to add bursts of color to their prints. So, yeah.
Yeah, HueForge is an amazing tool. I really have enjoyed using HueForge quite a bit.
I was trying to go down through your makes to get you do so much that it's going to take a while to get to and I think one of the things you were proud of at the East Coast Rip Rap Festival 2023 is at the time a lot of people were using AI generated images, and you're using your own photographs for HueForge. Yes.
My policy with HueForge is no AI. I only use my own photos. I may edit them, like for this one, obviously I played around with the, with contrast and things like that, but everything is based on my own photos.
Wow.
It's important to me.
And Liz, what's your background? Like, you started 3D printing 2 years ago, and obviously you have skills with design and things of that nature. What is it?
I'm kind of good at following instructions. No, I'm kind of good at following instructions, and just the desire to try something new. I've always loved doing all sorts of crafting and things like that, and 3D printing just ended up being a really great outlet. There was a time I was going through a lot of stress and everything. Actually, that's where a lot of the designs that I did, I was going through a really stressful time. So you can blame K2 Kevin in chat. He taught me Tinkercad, and he still is like mainly in Tinkercad. So he taught me a couple of things.
The big force behind MakerChip.
Yes. Mr. MakerChip. Yeah.
Yes.
And
wow.
Mr. Practical. And he's also, but mostly everything that he does is practical, but he sort of took a few weeks and we had a couple of weeks where I just did things in Tinkercad, and I think that helped me appreciate what it takes to design things. Also, of course, helping with MakerDeck, I've seen every single mistake you could possibly make in 3D printing, and also gained a real appreciation for printing things the best way possible with what you have. That's the basics, though.
Anyone willing to handle hot plastic in order to get a color swap is definitely doing what it needs to takes to get a good result. Yes. You definitely fit the category. Wonderful.
I did pull up this is our nostalgia time, right? I pulled up my first color swap back in 2015, and I'll go ahead and share it. It's not super duper exciting. I think you were more courageous than me, where you just clip the filament and wait for the sensor. I think I would just watch the print at the time.
Yes.
And I'd hit pause, and then I would do the switch. And at the time, Simplify 3D was socially acceptable to use. And once I learned to do separate processes in Simplify 3D, I was a much more engaged mother and wife when I didn't have to be tethered to my printer looking for that exact moment to the colors.
But there's something to be said about, us people that were in the trenches. We used to have to, there were times where I did eyeball the color swap. I'd sit there and I'd watch the layer, and then, I just missed it. It's not going to be perfect, but yeah, we were in the trenches of 3D printing even 2 years ago. And I think that's something that's really incredible. Like 2.5, 3 years ago, yes, a lot of printers had M600 to do swaps, and, you could do things in the slicer, but we have advanced so far now in the last couple of years where it's really funny. A lot of my friends are designers. They'll get ratings on Printables and Maker World and things like a poor rating. They're like, well, the print didn't stick to my bed. So it's some printers are so far advanced that people don't know 3D printing 101. So you have to go back to basics with them and teach them, like, have a clean bed, make sure that you, do as much of, even if it's auto leveling, tram your bed, make sure your build plates, in place, tune in your filament, all those sorts of things. So it's fascinating the way that things have advanced, but also in some ways they're still the same.
Wow. You mentioned something really that I wanted to ask you about, Liz, because your perspective is one that I think we could benefit from and knowing and understanding kind of what you think like the horizon is for 3D printing now, right? So you just talked about how people have a tendency to want to expect the machine to do everything. Of course, you got to educate them and let them know that that's not the case. But those people who are getting into 3D printing now, what do you think that they're getting? What do you think is drawing most people, brand new people, to 3D printing now?
I think the fact that you can, for most printers, you can set it and forget it to a limit. You can just press. You can just go into this. Some people don't even need to slice. Some people pull it from Maker World, for example, and if it's pre-sliced for them. So
Right.
I think that there's that ease of use, and of course the speed is a big factor, and the price point has gone down, so it's become a lot more affordable to start this as a hobby, and then from there decide where you go with it. I've seen people start out and they say, oh, I'm going to print things for craft fairs, and now all they do is print multi-board and Gridfinity and organize organization systems, and they've got it complements their hobby, whether they're into CNC or woodwork or whatever it is. So.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, thank you. Yeah, because I've been 3D printing since 2000. Hold on for a second. Slow down.
You predate me.
Yeah. I was 2013 or so. That's right. Yeah. 2000. No. 2012. So I can't even, me personally, what people get into it for. I feel like when I first started 3D printing, people were getting into it for just the gee whiz factor, like the fact that they could kind of stretch, they could get a machine in their house and they could use it such that if they did it well enough and continue to have their hair, that they could they could make what they wanted with the machine. And then got into design and also different things like that. So thank you for that. I really liked your page on things. It seems like the aesthetic that you use is for the things that you have from your own design kind of workshop have kind of have a certain functionality. It seems like you use a lot of things that are flexible or that are artistic, and also things that are articulated. There's a lot of articulated things too. So how
I have fun.
So do you have a set of?
There's a Karen Chow. There's Bugman.
Yeah.
Like, it's just such a variety of designers there. On your streams, Liz, you believe you have like a little bot that is counting how many times you say sorry.
Yes.
Because it's a Canadian thing.
I am Canadian.
We should do, every time you promote someone or some bottle, like that should be a counter too, if you don't already have it.
Yes.
I one of the reasons I actually started streaming is I saw that there was a void. YouTube is one place. YouTube for me, people do live content there, but it's not, to me, Twitch is a different environment. It's kind of a game in a sense. Well, it is a gaming platform initially.
Yes.
But when I was on Twitch and I was seeing 3D printing content, I didn't see what I wanted. So I started out with Z and Z. I have a show that I do on Mondays with Zombie Hedgehog, aka Hedgehog Makes. He's very heavy duty into printer builds and all of the, or even the science of filament. He dives deep into those sorts of things, and I'm more the aesthetic and seeing new people and learning about new techniques and everything. So we sort of complement each other, but then people still wanted more. So I started streaming on Twitch. And so a lot of what I do is look what I just learned, or and then the other thing that I do is I introduce people to, like, I have I'm rebooting my interview series now, where I just interviewed a Kit Kiln because he was one of those like mysterious characters. He hadn't been to a rep festival. A lot of people had seen him. He's very popular. If you go to like the Thangs leaderboard for the Maker Showcase, all of his models were up there. And I was like, there is a perspective, I think, in 3D printing where people are suspicious of someone rather than curious. And I think I'm new enough that maybe I'm not as cynical as some people. It's just there's different types of people. They approach things differently. And if they see someone that's always like winning the prizes and who are they? I'm like, who are they? Mm-hmm. So that's sort of where I come in, and I'm just like, I would rather learn who someone is and get to meet them and introduce them to everyone else. I think that's the best way to grow in this hobby. Mm-hmm. It's still a very small, we're still in a bubble. So as many times as we can go outside of that bubble, I think like what you do with this show too is you sort of step outside and introduce yourself to something or someone new, and it just enhances the hobby. I know so many creators. There are designers that live in other countries that have never met each other, but they're very good friends. Yeah. Vixen Dude and Bugman, they talk all the time, and they've never met each other, but they've collaborated. They've done all sorts of things, and I think that's what makes the hobby so interesting, because there's no, there are no barriers, unless you create them.
Good points.
We just recently watched the Ted Lasso. We're a little behind on the times. Have you seen Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
He has that famous speech about being curious and not judgmental. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. And it seems to have served you pretty well. So you have a podcast for the filament that's in collaboration with the filament company.
Yes. Yeah. I have In Printing Color with Polymaker once a week, and I have free reign to do what I'd like to do. So I will pick either a color or a collection or a technique, and I discuss it and give away some filament while I'm at it. And so it's been really great, because it's actually forced me to go outside of my own bubble too when it comes to filament. I think the first time I printed with anything other than PLA was this time last year. I think I used PETG for the first time, but now I printed in ABS, ASA. I love TPU. I'm having lots of fun like playing around with TPU. And of course you have to dial things in and talk about the safety and all those sorts of things. But I think I stopped setting myself with
and Karen points out that you've also printed chocolate.
True. Yeah. Yes. I was on the beta testing, beta tasting, we'll call that. I was on the beta crew for Cocoa Press, and that was the very first printer I ever built. And it was quite.
How long did it take you?
I would say a solid week and a half to 2 weeks. Just going through all the different steps. I was really fortunate, as I mentioned, Zombie Hedgehog. He's built countless Vorons. And I had some, actually, my friend Glendon too, and a couple other people. They had built Vorons before, and it's based on the Voron V0. So for things, it was really funny because when I was doing the build, they were still writing the guide because I was a beta tester. And so we were half a step ahead of every single page in the instructions. So it took, sometimes we had to start and stop and wait for it to catch up. But I was really fortunate to have that sort of guidance, but it was virtual. I had to angle cameras and take pictures of things, and there may have been a little bit of screaming and crying with belts and things like that. We'll never forget that, but it's a great test of friendship or relationships to do things like that. But so I had success. So I think I initially started it in August and finally printed in October, because I was a beta tester and didn't have parts and things like that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. If I had been someone that built Vorons, I would have had all the spare, fasters and things. But
right. Yeah. The extra washers and stuff that come in the bag, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there were a lot of times where, there's a whole, I don't think it's in the new build, but you have to stack a whole bunch of washers together. And every time I get it on, they'd all drop on the floor. So my magnet stick became my best friend.
Yeah, I've been through that.
Yeah,
before.
yes, exactly. So.
Oh, well, good for you. Good for you.
And then then there's places you can 3D print washers, and to replace the ones that you lost on the floor forever.
Good point. Very good point. And so, Liz, as you're moving forward with your presence and stuff like that, have you I guess we all kind of look to other people who have podcasts or people who have come and gone, as far as like members of the community or members that are promoting 3D printing. What do you think? Where do you think that this journey is going to go for you, as far as like the partnership with Polymaker, three podcasts a week, all these things that are really kind of getting you in position to be in the middle of this industry as it grows. I call it industry, this community as it grows. But what is your aim for the activity right now?
Every day I try to make, whether it's helping out with MakerDeck or with my own programming, it's welcoming new people into the hobby, but also inspiring and re-inspiring people who already have printers and have all these things.
Yes.
There's lots of things that we can continue to talk about, like maintenance, different products that come in. Like, there's always new colors of filament. There's always new formulas and things to try out. We've been really lucky that we have, new designers like Kit Kiln, or someone like Fixin' Dude with his I love his vehicles, and now he's doing earrings. So there's always something new to discover. That's actually one of my projects that I started in the spring. Is I started making 3D printed jewelry. I realized it's so easy to use up the ends of filament. I have an A1 mini, and that you can really use like the very ends of spools if you're babysitting enough. And so I've been able to go to shows with an entire filament box full of something that I 3D printed to distribute to lots of people. Between that and maker chips, it's a lot easier than taking like a giant Jar Jar Binks with me. Yeah. Right. So the earrings have been a great new find for me to start printing. And
I gave the earrings you gave me to my sister, and she appreciated them.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So it's fun to share. And when I'm traveling to these shows, I'm coming from Canada, so there's customs that you have to think about. There's also, the weight of luggage and everything. So 3D printed earrings are a lot easier to transport than, little fidgets or anything else. So it's fun.
Wow. Yes, yeah, you definitely bring an excitement and air to the things that you're promoting and the things that you're doing in the 3D printed world. So I appreciate that a lot.
And I think somewhere, one of your profiles, you have, I'm here to help. Yeah, maybe it's in Discord or something. That's like almost your mission statement. Like, I'm here to help and disarm it and make this whole experience, be it from streaming on MakerDeck or even just printing from the get-go. I want to make it less intimidating, more inviting.
Yeah, I'm really inspired by people like Chuck Hellbuck, because he has taught people how to. I've never had an ender, not really interested either, but he's the ender whisperer. And so there are people that come in, they bought that $99, or actually recently it was $49 ender at Micro Center, and they don't know how to make it work. And I want them to enjoy their experience as much as possible. Also, people have different budgets. Some people say, I have $1,500 to spend on a printer. What would you recommend? But then you have the contrast where it's like, I want to buy a starter printer for my son. He's really interested in designing. So I want people to know that, like, you can use Tinkercad. There is nothing wrong. Like, Tinkercad is a fantastic tool. It's really interesting. Maker World now has some tools where you can do design. I just started working on a bowl. They have on Bamboo Maker World, they have what is it called? Maker Lab, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a Maker Lab. And so you can actually go in and create your own design. And of course, I ended up changing it from a vase into a bowl, because that's what I was looking for. And so that's something that's accessible, and it's free. So I think that when you put barriers on a hobby like this, you can lose out on some amazing creators and amazing design. So that's without any limits, and always knowing that I think we're all learning. There's always something to learn. Like, I just opened up, HueForge has a whole bunch of new applications. They've got color aware, they've got color pop, they've got all these different things, and they're not things that I'm familiar with at this point. So I have to go and sort of re-educate myself, and that'll likely mean I'll have to talk to but the thing is, I actually talked about this last night on my stream. We're all accessible. It's very easy to find someone from the HueForge, in the HueForge Discord, and say, do you have a couple minutes? I have a couple questions about this. If you see that someone's design is really similar to someone else's, you can actually say, hey, where did you get that idea? Or, there's never, we're still very small. We're still a very small space. And yeah, everyone is accessible. It's very easy to be able to talk to people. Or if you have an idea, if you see that someone like Fix'em Dude is designing vehicles, you can say, I've really wanted, he actually has this, a Barbie Corvette. He did a Barbie Corvette. He did a taco truck for practical printing for Krusty. But if you have an idea, you can go to a designer. I mean, you have to know how to approach it too. You can't say, you need to do this next. That can cause major burnout for designers, for certain. But and don't go in with expectations. But everybody's still accessible.
Everybody's open to the ask.
And then on the HueForge, the software writer, has office hours in Discord where it's dedicated time. I think he has two, one for Europe too. So different time zones.
Steve is really accessible
and ask him questions or whatnot.
Yeah, and the whole crew there, like all of them, they were all at 3D Printopia. Danny and Ian and Adam, and I'm probably gonna miss one of them.
Name dropping.
They're all great. So, but it's that, and that's actually one of the things. I'm originally from a very small town in Nova Scotia, so I think I take that. At home, everybody knew who everyone was. I still remember the first time I was canvassing for someone running for mayor, and I knocked on someone's door, and I didn't understand it at the time, but they said, "Who's your father?" And I didn't realize they're finding out what my last name is to know where I'm from, to connect me to someone that they know and whatever. And I used to always say, "Oh, my mom works at the bank," and like I'd say her name, and they would know, "Oh, you're your Anne's daughter." But so I still have that.
Wait, back up. Your mom's name is Anne?
Yes.
My mom's name is Anne. We had already, for the chat and Lawrence, we both have sisters with the same name.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now we have moms with the same name. That's really weird.
And it's not our sister's name. It's Carolyn. It's not a common name either.
No.
So it's kind of funny. It's not like it's Jane or something. Yeah.
So we have a lot more in common.
Yeah. So I sort of take that small town approach, and I want to get to know everybody. And like I said, this is still a very small space, and there's lots to learn and there's lots to share. And that's what I'm all about. So
wow. Well, cool. Yeah, it definitely shows. It definitely shows that you're looking to learn, you're looking to connect people. So that's really, really great. And that's why I'm really glad that Vicky was able to find you. That's awesome.
Oh, I think, I don't know if I found her. I don't think I found her. I think I was at the East Coast Riprap Festival, and Chris Russell, Practical Printing, Krusty, he's like, "You need to meet Liz." So he's also a connector, community connector.
That's, and I wish that hope he'll be at the next event. I know he's been doing all sorts of moving around and stuff, but yeah, he was my sort of my my Sherpa at my very first 3D printing event, and also just my first year of 3D printing. He encouraged me to just get to know everything I could about the hobby. And the other thing that I did is when I started 3D printing, my living situation, I was actually I was an executive assistant, and during COVID, I moved in with my boss because she ended up getting really sick. And so I was a caretaker, which was a whole new thing for me, and which was definitely not something that Kevin, which was not something that, I had signed up for, I was an executive assistant to someone that was traveling all over the country all the time. I was arranging travel. I was, sitting on board meetings and stuff, but then her health took a turn and it was COVID. So I was a caretaker. So I had lots of extra time. I did have this gift of time. So I listened to all the podcasts. I watched all the streams. I watched all of the YouTube channels, subscribed to all of them. I followed people on socials. And so during that period where I was pretty much, everybody was stuck in the house, but I was really stuck because I was a caretaker too. I was able to really absorb everything. And that's why I talk about Zombie, my co-host, Austin. He is the kind of person that part of his ADHD, you hyperfixate on something. So he hyperfixated on like the ins and outs of 3D printers and all of that sort of stuff. So we got into 3D printing within months of each other. And I think that's what has helped both of us sort of go along with the content that we produce and everything. We complement each other in that sense, and we learn from each other.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I do think I'm a computer programmer, and I've worked from home since 2007. So I think that might have helped my learning a lot, that I could be here, I could start prints, and I could come and be like, that sucked, and then tweak some settings and do it again. So I do think if I had a day job, how my learning, what path that it would have taken. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I suffer from insomnia from time to time. So, I would be up till 2 or 3 o'clock at night, replacing the little, well, you don't know anything about this, Liz, but replacing little resistors that you put into the back of the hot end in order for your, rudimentary hot end to work, and, using the heat resistant tape, and, so the way I learned is it wasn't hyper. It was one of those things where I had a goal. My goal was to actually print something with my 3D printer regularly.
Yes.
And so I put it into a spot. I leveled it, and then I just crossed my fingers, and like I could print consistently for about 6 months, and then I bumped it, of course, and then all bets were off. But I got into it, and I got the details, and like the pursuit actually kind of pulled me in. Like before I started 3D printing, I never thought about computer programming, never even understood too terribly well how to make a machine do something that I wanted according to my own design. But 3D printing kind of pulled me into doing that because I said, well, I want to print faster, or I want to print with a different material. Yeah. Or it's a little bit higher now. Like, why do I have to keep, doing variables? Why can't I just do it once? And so I kind of backed into the kind of the information obsession thing. I had a goal. I just and different obstacles kept jumping up in front of those goals. So
absolutely. When it comes to slicing, one thing that I've learned over the last little while is you have to make some decisions. And I think with multicolor printing, you have the option to have something as a painted object, whether you're using MMU or, of course, here I'm using the AMS. Mm-hmm. But then you have to decide whether you want to waste that amount of filament, whether it's worth the time and all those sorts of things. So I think that's sort of where multicolor printing is starting to shift. We see a lot of people that are concerned about the waste. And so I think that's becoming a really interesting decision-making process when you go to print something. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I'm finding is like the latest hot topic. So for example, I'll just grab this here. I printed this adorable little Garfield. This is Red Dad Steve. Jeez. He made this model available where you could actually print each individual part and everything could be glued into place. But then he started publishing the model that could be painted. So I painted this in the slicer, and 2 little Garfields were 23 hours. And probably, like, I don't know, many, many grams of waste. Because if you think every single layer is a purge. Mm-hmm. I did luck out with this was the Polymaker fall gradient at the time. It was a really pretty orange gradient. So that made it easier when you're using a gradient to get a fun effect. But there's still, the black, the yellow, the white, the pink, all of those colors. And every time you print a layer, it either gets wiped or purged. So when you do the math on these sorts of things for both the time and, of course, the cost of filament, that's when you start making decisions about these sorts of things. I think that's the newest thing in multicolor printing. It's like, this is really neat, but 22 hours of my time, and also how many extra grams of filament, was this worth it? So that's sort of where I'm. That's the latest thing in how would you slice it? Like you're saying. So for example, this and this one too. This is all individual pieces that you print, and they snap into place. So it's really interesting. Like the whole thing snaps together. It's the 2 halves of the Millennium Falcon. Then every single of these little parts has a place that it snaps in. So this is, still using multicolor capabilities, but not painted. Because if this was painted, I'm sure it would take a full day at least. Because you'd have a lot of, because you'd have it on the, even if you printed it the 2 halves, it would take a lot of extra time. So it's one of those things where you have to decide where the value of that is. But one thing that we're really lucky in having in 3D printing now is we have a lot more options when it comes to multicolored filament. So we've got these beautiful gradients where you can get a full color effect. Let me,
without
where's
purging.
here's my Memetics. My Memetics dragon is one of my favorite, in the luminous rainbow, because it just, it ends up having such a fun effect. You run through as much of the rainbow as possible. So these are ways to do, to do multicolor. You can also do color swaps, like I've done with the layer swaps. But it's really interesting. K2 Kevin had someone comment. He has this extra large organizer. It's Gridfinity enabled.
Yeah.
So this extra large organizer. And someone complained, they said, every time I print this, it prints in 2 colors. I didn't paint it. So there are people that have bamboos that are pulling something from the slicer, pulling things from Maker World, and they don't realize that there's such thing as a layer swap as opposed to painting something, which of course takes up a lot more filament and a lot more time. So yeah, so something like this. And so he actually had to explain to them, that's what I'm saying, like 3D printing 101. He had to explain, no, this is a layer swap, for the color. So,
Right. Yeah, that information is not immediately apparent.
Yeah.
when
it comes to the content that I produce, I think that, and also a lot of people that produce 3D printing content, 3D printers could stay the same for the next 5 years, and we're still going to be going through and doing that education. The 3D printing 101 is never going to die. It's just, it'll be different.
More capabilities, and it'll get more complex.
Yeah, because people still don't know how to change. I actually saw TikTok. I'll have to send it to you. Of this lady, there was a guy and he had a bamboo A1, and he was using a piece of paper trying to level. Of course, it has, all the capabilities of leveling. And she actually said, she was being very kind, and she said, actually, what your issue is your nozzle is loose. And so you have to, she did a whole tutorial on TikTok where she opened it up, said you have to unscrew this and then unscrew this in the back and tighten this, and you'll be fine. That's your problem. It's you could try to level with paper all you like, but it's not going to help.
Right.
So I think that type of education is still going to exist, and also letting people know all the different options that they have in 3D printing, whether they're doing, a light box and how to stop the wisps from happening when you're doing a face down print, helping out with the Maker chip, the launch of the Maker chip. That was a lot of teaching people, yes, you can use a 0.4 nozzle. Yes, you could, but you have to use, this profile has been tuned so it prints nicely flat.
Very well tuned. Well tuned.
Yeah, there's always new techniques, and there's always new, there's always something new. So
I do want to highlight a comment from Pink94, which I don't think we've really hit on this show, but I know when I teach classes with the librarians and I'm teaching them slicing, the first thing I tell them is, it's very tempting to just, export or, just to go right away, but to take that extra time and go in preview mode. And particularly I tell them, drill all the way down, look at that first layer, but also look at your colors and your overhangs and just
your infill. People, that's actually something Austin and I are going to tackle very soon on Z and Z, is choosing what supports to use, because everybody's in love with the tree or organic supports right now, but it's not the best for every print. I have seen people on MakerDeck print something, they're either printing way too fast, or even the dimensions of what they're printing, it doesn't lend to organic supports. And sometimes if you don't paint those supports and go through the slicer and look, you'll have supports that are, for something like this, you don't actually need supports, but someone could go in and it would be inside every single groove. And it's just knowing how to do that. Bamboo defaults grid infill. If you're doing something that has any form of structure to it and you're doing grid infill, you're going to have your nozzle start bouncing off your print. There's something about the speed and everything that grid infill can cause little tiny layer shifts in a structural print. I think I was doing Gridfinity plates, and I started out with that infill, and I was like, what's going on here?
Oof.
Oh no, it was 3D printy panels. That's what it was. And I was able to just like pull the whole thing apart, and I'm like, I have my filament calibrated, I have everything, but it was the infill. So there's a lot of things that people don't, they just assume is fine, and they don't take a look at it.
Wow.
Yeah, so you have your infill patterns that you can choose from.
Yeah.
I still want to try out the Vicky infill patterns.
Oh yeah. I have all the code up on a blog post, so if people want to copy and paste or make their own. But on one of I have long aspirations, but I'm like, I should do a video on that to make it more inviting for people because it's in C++, a code language that I haven't used in 20 years. So, it's basically what I did was copy and paste. So I can copy and paste, and you can copy and paste too.
Yes, I'm looking forward to Vicky infill for sure. I was very impressed at the East Coast Rip Rap Festival 2023 when I saw Vicky's infill. So we're looking forward to that for sure. Liz, I want to ask you one more question before we get out of here, or before we run out of time. Now, I don't. Okay, speaking from personal experience, I am not a person right now, especially since I've started using bamboo. I have not put myself in position to tune my printer according to filaments. Okay. And so, talk to us a little bit about how much better you think things come about. You've tuned your printer with the filaments.
Okay. I'm gonna see if I can. I didn't put it in my little presentation, so I'm gonna grab it here quickly. I am not a big. I wasn't aware of the impact that tuning having profiles tuned for your filament. I didn't realize the impact of that until I started playing with TPU, and I also revisited silks. The initial, I think, the initial experience of printing with silks.
Were you ready? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'll grab it just a second. The initial experience of printing with silks on a bamboo, where you ended up with a dull finish. You didn't get the old, the beautiful finish of silks. So I am really lucky to have friends that love to tune in their profiles and share that. So with silk, you have to slow things down. You have to watch the temperature and everything. So you can show now.
Okay.
This is my storm chunker, and it ended up absolutely gorgeous. This is actually a filament that I lobbied Polymaker to come out with a color, rather, silk periwinkle. It's on the website. It says silk periwinkle. It's periwinkle, but I lobbied them to have that. But to have that profile tuned so much that there's no variations in the because of the
surface.
the speed of difference. Yeah, in the surface, it's all the same. It's all the same, which is really.
I hear a bamboo finish.
Yep. And then the other thing was with TPU, K2 Kevin actually tuned in a profile. I think it's definitely slower and hotter, and that is. Oh, I don't have them here. I just put a bunch of things away. Anyway, these are these. I have one on my wall in silk. One of the big IK3D dinosaurs, but I'm doing them in TPU now because, of course, I can. So this is a project I'm actually working on with Overture filament. I mentioned to Greg and Forrest from Overture, I'm like, you have more colors of TPU than Polymaker. So then they sent me everything that they had in the Canadian colors in Canada. So yeah, it's really interesting to be able to tune something in so it's pretty much flawless in a material like TPU. So
TPU, I can definitely see the need for tuning. I've got a silk tuned Venus de Milo. Oh, well, there's no good angles for this.
Oh, here, hold on.
But yeah, I guess now that I'm looking at it and you're saying these things, I can see how, like, on the draping at the bottom, I can see a difference in the way the light bounces on this.
Yeah. So you'll have points where it's really shiny and parts where it's really dull. So then it's learning how to tune that in, like slow down your speeds. And like I said, sometimes you raise the temperature depending on what you're printing, you lower the temperature. And we're not doing temperature towers anymore. Like we used to. There's no need for that, but there is a need to tune in your filament. Matte filaments can tend to clog your nozzles if you're not careful. So with a bamboo, you want to make sure you have the door open, so everything's flowing properly. You want to, there's all sorts of things. So that's not necessarily where I have strengths, but I definitely take the strengths of people like Zombie and Kevin and stuff, and I'm able to apply it when I'm printing things.
Wonderful.
But I am always offering to test out methods, test profiles and stuff for people. I actually did my hours on these 3 printers. In the last year, I have printed an average a total of 315 days. I think it's like 5,600 hours on one printer. So I'm constantly printing.
I thought you meant printing thing every day for 315 days. I set out in like 2015 or 16 to do something like that. But I could only talk to like my 1 or 2 friends that were in 3D printing at the time. So I decided that probably wasn't that I was not going to get a trophy for doing that. But yes, it's amazing. The one thing about our machines nowadays is they'll run and run with very little to no incident. So we can continue to improve ourselves as practitioners using these wonderful tools.
Yeah. So but definitely everything takes maintenance. Everything takes, got to give it a day and check everything out and do that regularly enough. I think that a lot of people with these set it, forget it, they think that's the case. And then they end up having like major issues, because when you've been running something for 3,500 hours, there's a lot of times where you've had to stop. And I mean, I've taken the AMS apart. I don't know how many times, there's still issues no matter how.
It's really scary to take it apart the first time, but yes.
Oh, yeah.
I've taken mine apart too.
Yeah.
I've taken mine apart too.
Well, it's not as great as a segue now, but 2 things. Karen, when we were talking about TPU, she said TPU is fun because that, of course, is what her little squeaky toys are printed in. And then you're talking about printing all the time. You kind of blew my mind with the speed that you print things. Me, on my side, I'm really slow. Like, there's a lot of stuff that, I'm printing for Etsy or, I'm printing for a lot of people. And my family, they'll request things and it takes a while and so much that my husband ended up buying his own 3D printer because he was tired of waiting for me. And now my oldest son has his own bamboo mini and everything like that. Well, back when we were doing the eclipse last April, I posted an old 3D model of my eclipse necklace. And Liz said somewhere on social media, "Oh, I'm going to print that for my show." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I just don't know what I did. I don't know, but I thought she's like a Vicky schedule kind of person. But then that exact stream that night, she was wearing the necklace, so she has that capability to like just print things right away.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to have the printers that I have, and then the printers that I have used to have, I've either been able to like give them to people, and so it's constant. It's definitely a constant thing, and there are times where it does get overwhelming, where you have a project and someone is launching something. Recently, Fixin' Dude started designing earrings, and he sent me. I inspired him. He was suddenly inspired, and so he made. What did he do? He sent me pickles. That was my request. My goddaughter is very into pickling. At 13. I think that's a Montreal. Yeah. So then, and then he did the maple leaves. He did candy corn. I think actually I gave the tacos. He did these amazing tacos and a whole bunch of other things. And so I was trying to print them. And the other thing that I do, without taking too much time, is I actually take good care, and I've learned to take photos better. So I am really big on making sure that what I've printed looks nice, to not only complement the designer, but also complement the filament. So I have up on the screen one of Fixin' Dude's latest models.
This I had that up on my screen too.
So this is the Starship Enterprise.
Yeah.
And so with that, I had to, I had to have it in the light box. The white background that I normally have wasn't doing the job, so I had to switch to the black background. The only thing I did miss in this is the turkey leg isn't really showing very well, but it's important to me to complement the designers and, of course, the companies that I work with that sponsor me to show off their filament. So I have had to learn a lot about photography, in as much as, and also editing the pictures without doctoring the pictures, because these are 3D prints. So when you zoom in, you're going to see, you are going to see layer lines and infill and whatever else, but doing my best to highlight that has been a big deal to me. So if someone like Fixin' Dude is kind enough to design these earrings with me in mind, then I'm going to do my best to take there's the tacos. I love them.
Oh, they're so
they're
cute.
amazing. But I'll do my best. And so in turn, I've been able to enter the Maker Showcase on Thangs. They have a weekly thing, which encourages people. Of course, on Printables, you get points for posting makes of models. I want to highlight the model and the filament and not, and leave people with a good feeling about what's been designed and printed. I know the work that goes into doing all of that. So even something as simple, there's K2 Kevin's bamboo tools. He's world famous for these, not just a maker chip, not just a filament clip, but, and so choosing the right colors, choosing colors that look good, and then, taking a good picture no matter what it is. So, and also there's a challenge too. Something like a lightsaber. How do you show off a lightsaber? And I do have a very large light box, but it's not big enough for something like that. But, I want to show it off as much as possible. So that's definitely a challenge that I faced, and taken on as sort of a new side hobby to 3D printing is sort of product photography. These are 3D Print Bunny, her vases. And so not only do you get to show off the butterfly vase, but that's the spring, fall, summer, and winter Polymaker gradients. So it's really fun to think, okay, I found a model. What am I going to do with this model, and how am I going to highlight the filament? So that's sort of the thought process that goes into doing my shows and everything too, and highlighting as many designers as possible, because you can have your favorites. Oh, there's the Garfield again. You can have your favorites, but and I've also started adding color. That's another thing. This is a Wexter Christmas model, his reindeer. I did rub and buff, but my rub and buff is actually makeup.
Oh yeah.
I have, So I have, like makeup palettes that, you shouldn't wear glitter makeup. It's really bad for your health. I always drop things, so I dropped something. Anyway, it's really bad to wear heavy glitter on your eyes. And my sister happens to like give me makeup palettes, or I have makeup palettes.
Would this be your sister Carolyn?
Yes. So then you end up with these really high glitter filaments, high glitter eyeshadows,
Makeup.
and you don't really want them near your eyes, actually. And even on the back of the package, it'll say like makeup instead of eyeshadow, because you're not. So you can take something like this and then put it on something like this is the reindeer without the horns. They're, and you can actually rub that on there, spray it down with a little bit. You can use clear lacquer or even hairspray, and there's like a whole rub and buff. So I've been experimenting a lot. Yeah, I have have fun with that kind of stuff.
Wow,
So,
thank you for that. That's awesome.
That is nice. Yeah. I like that.
Yes, but very much so.
I'm gonna get some rub and buff and actually use rub and buff, going forward. But yeah, so one of my things is to really highlight. There's Retro Maker. These are some of his. This I actually used very precious polyalchemy elixir. I had some old spools of polyalchemy elixir filament, and so this is Pink's pumpkin from last year. So I used all the reds and oranges and the green to have something to keep. That's the other thing that I'm really a big proponent of. Use your fancy filament. Use it or lose it.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's something I need to be reminded of to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And also have fun and experiment. There's times that I've done hue forges. There's the original leaf. That's what I want to show you. So there's the leaf, and then there's the photo. So what you do is that was outside. I tried to get as much of a background as least less of a background as possible, and then pulled that in. If you're using an iPhone, you can actually hold it down and it cuts it, or you can use editing software. So,
yeah.
Wow. And so with my hue forge too, I've been able to do things like instead of using white, I use glitter filament in place of white. So I get to use that precious glitter filament that, if it's protopasta, it costs a fortune, but I've used as much of it as possible. And in place of, so I experiment all the time. It's a constant. There's another time when I used glitter instead of, actually this was my whole glitter era, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, it's very nice.
And also I always break the rules with things like hue forge. I use silks as the the base, because of course they are they have a low TD or a high a low TD. That's what it is. The brain. Anyway, so I have lots of fun with that. So that's the other thing. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I could probably talk for 6 days about this. So
I'm a lot of people that we have on the show. I'm just always impressed at everything that they're able to accomplish. And yeah, you're in that category right now. Like,
no exception.
You accomplished so much.
I agree.
Are you good with your screen?
Oh yeah, okay. We're good now. Yeah, but the big thing at the end of the day is have fun with it. And remember that for most people, this is a hobby. Some of us have been able to create some income streams from it, whether they're, people on YouTube that do printer builds or people that are making very specific content. But for most people, it's a hobby, and finding ways for them to enjoy their hobby is sort of my mission.
Yeah, it's very rewarding too. Very rewarding too. Yeah. It's a great hobby to have, and a great way to learn and to kind of make your world smaller as well. Pull traditions and mechanics and learn all kinds of different things through these machines. Yeah.
I probably have said this before on the show, but the author Kirk Vonnegut, one of the things that he talks about a lot is the importance of the arts and being creative. And so, one of his sentiments is practicing an art, no matter how well or no matter how poorly, is a way to make your soul grow. And that's what you're out there doing, is you're helping people make their souls grow. And thank you for doing that. I'm glad that you're in the community.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Welcome. Yeah.
And does that feel like a segue to wrap up?
Yes.
Time always flies.
It's great though. It's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us for another episode of How Would You Slice That? If you're not familiar with the show, we are live on Tuesday nights that are prime numbers. Our next show is going to be on November 17th. We are going to be joined by Abby Brown, and this might be a little bit of a special case. I want to just talk about what she's going to be talking about. She's heavily involved with the 2024 Christmas, let me make sure I get this right, the Christmas Community Print Drive that I think is spearheaded by Loyal Moses. And all year round, if you look at her socials, she is publishing designs. Like she started way in advance. She's been making designs for the toy drive, and she's been printing for the toy drive. And so she's going to be joining us and talking about her year. But I do want to let you know, if this is something that you're interested in doing and printing for the Christmas Community Print Drive, they have a lot of logistics they need to do. They need to sanitize the toys and get them all wrapped up and shipped. So their deadline for receiving prints for the toy drive is actually 2 days before that she'll be joining us. So if you are interested in this, let me throw this into the chat for you real quick. Abby just recently wrote an article with 3D with us about the Christmas drive. And maybe you'll get some spoiler alerts of some of the topics that she'll be talking about. So that's a place where a good starting point where you can learn about it and also get to the official page and see the approved designs that you can print. And a lot of the designers that Liz highlights have designs for the toy drive as well. All right.
And Vicky,
there's also 3D printing toys for tots too. The IC3D. This is going to KB3D in Ohio because I don't have toys for tots in Canada. So these are Fix 'em Dude trucks. So I'm actually going to be sending these that way too. So we've got all kinds of. It's great. There's all kinds of ways to give back to community. It's awesome.
Yeah, and guess what? This is not as embarrassing as the time where I had the wrong year, but I had the wrong day on my banner and what I told you. Thank you, Ryan, for
we didn't see that.
Out.
I don't know what you're talking about. We did not see that at all.
Thanks.
No chance.
The replay's on YouTube, so they'll be on.
Well, you can edit it on YouTube.
It's true. So it will be Tuesday, November 19th. We'll have Abby Brown, and she'll be talking about the Community Christmas Drive. But yes, also a very good tip about checking out the Toys for Tots. Thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We have a wonderful community that's getting more and more diverse every day. And we have a wonderful little sub-community in this chat who joins us on Tuesday nights. Thank you for joining us, especially tonight when it's election night. You have other things that you could be watching, but thank you for watching us and participating in the chat. And we hope to see you in 2 weeks. And
Absolutely.
Liz,
Excellent.
thank you so much for being a part of this community, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.